And I'm talking about hacking an election, because it is entirely possible. And this isn't anything new, except that a report coming out and a warning is new that indeed we're a lot more vulnerable to a hacker coming in and altering the election.
Because there's so many electronics?
Because the electronic vulnerabilities inside of it and the weaknesses along the way. And you would say, well, how would a hacker do it? Well, have a look at first thing is so easy. It's simply you would target some states that don't use a paper trail. So a lot of states that don't keep a paper trail, they use an electron, they have no backup to it. So how would you then count the vote if it's close? You can't. 5 states right now that do that: Georgia, Delaware, New Jersey, Louisiana, and South Carolina. So there's no way to authenticate a vote at that point. Another way is target the wireless voting systems. A lot of the voting places go wirelessly from one another to collect all of the ballots during the election. And any hacker can get into it. In fact, it happened in one case where in Virginia, an encrypted technology was being used. It was great, except the human error side of this really made it go bad, which was a password that was, guess what? A, B, C, D, E.
Great.
Thank you. And that's so easy for a hacker to get into.
Sure.
And then what you could do is tamper with those results. The other thing you could do is ballot transport. This again has to do 31 states, including also the District of Columbia, communicate ballot results electronically. They could be tampered with on the internet while they're in transit from one place to the other. And the moment any part of that process hits the internet, all of those results become a lot weaker. And then we have finally the way that you can tamper with it, so we call it tampering terrorism. It's simply the election results can be just as effective of threatening that there's an attack or threatening that they're not authentic, can have the same result. They can actually cause us not to trust that. Well, when would that really come into play? That would be if we have an election that's neck and neck and the results are really super close. We don't any longer have the ability to really count the votes. We can't really put out the piece of paper votes and count them one by one anymore.
And all it would take in a razor-close election would be tampering in a couple of precincts in certain cases that could throw it.
It is possible. It's not. I'm not saying it's going to happen. It's entirely possible. And then if it does happen, we take it to the next level. What happens? Well, the Supreme Court decides that. And with justices that are now evenly split 4 and 4, what's going to happen? What do they do?
Who's in charge of cybersecurity? Do you know?
You know, in terms of the election
system, or is it state by state?
You know, it has to do. Well, with this, it's going to be presidential election committee. I mean, this is heavily monitored. The problem is our technology is late to the game, and what this panel has come out and said is that we really need to tighten up our election electronics in a way that we treat this as vital national assets. You know, you want to treat our election results as if it's a national asset.
When we watched it in the primaries, and in some states there's just a bucket and people are putting little scraps of paper in. Maybe that's still the way to do it.
Yeah, you got the piece of paper trail there. So,
Kurt,
hey, good to see you.
Thank you, Kurt.
All right.
Hi, Kurt. All right, coming up, the campaign is crumbling, but they're united as ever. So who should we believe? It knows all about the challenges of a campaign. Mike Huckabee, next.
Is that him?